r/ask Reddit. What is the best drunk story you have about a friend that you're not allowed to tell in their presence? Please tell me those hilarious, embarrassing, weird drunken stories you have about your friends that you have sworn to never bring up again. After a lovely Italian banquet, dressed semi-formally, my best friend, her brother and his girlfriend and I decide to continue drinking at our local watering hole. My friend ate tripe and God only knows what else, and upon arrival at the bar, announces that she needs to go. Except it's like a fucking high school reunion in there, and she refuses to poop in a small 2-stall extremely crowded bathroom. So we head back outside, and she finds an alley, and proceeds to liquid shit a mere 20 feet from the bar with me on watch out. Al's better and she's finishing up when a gust of hot wind comes from behind her, and takes the stank of poo directly into my face. I immediately vomited. We both don't like to talk about it. My ex-girlfriend once showed up at 2 in the morning, unannounced after we had been broken up for 2 weeks. She is hammered drunk, so I just put her to bed, because I had to work in the morning, and didn't even wanna deal with her. About an hour later I wake up, and she is squatting down on my floor taking a piss. I turn the light on, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? She pulls her pants up, pushes me away, and calls me some other dude's name. She's grabbing her stuff to leave, and I'm pretty pissed at this point, so just let her leave super drunk. I clean up the piss and go back to bed. About an hour later someone is pounding on my door again. I open it and it's her. She's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, you just pissed on my floor and left. She responds with, I wasn't even here. A big group of my friends went out one night after some pretty serious pre-gaming. They get to a bar, drink some more, everyone's really wasted, and a couple hours pass. Eventually the group reconvenes and decides to call it a night. At this point, they realize one person, let's call him K, is missing. But they just assume he's found his way home and leave. The next morning, K is nowhere to be found. It isn't until 24 hours later that they finally found out what happened. K got so drunk he went running naked through the city until the police finally arrested him. He blew a bag of 288. My freshman year of college, me and my small group of friends went to my boyfriend's family's cabin for a weekend of drinking. The first night there we all got pretty shitty, and somehow the night ended in me and the other girl in the group having a competition to see who can get their boyfriend to stay hard longest. Then it turned into a blowjob race. And then it ended in the two couples of the group having sex with their partner, with the odd guy out just jerking it. All of this was going on in the same room. Everybody swore to not speak of it after that night. 5 of us spent the weekend into a res a while back, before it was so murdery. One dude drank nothing but tequila, and spent the whole night chatting up a girl he was convinced was the hottest thing he had ever seen. We spent the whole night trying to convince him she was a dude. One blowjob in an alley later, she flops out her cock for reciprocation. He actually threw up on him/her, and ran out to us yelling fuck fuck fuck. We laughed and laughed, and laughed, then laughed some more. If we ever try to tell that story around him, he will take his ball and go home immediately. We had a big party at my house and my female best friend got very drunk. In the morning, I woke to find that she had puked all over my bathroom. I then followed her trail of destruction upstairs. I see that my 13-year-old son's bedroom is ajar. Fortunately, he is with his mother that weekend, because when I peer in the open door, I find my friend passed out and wearing nothing below the waist. Not only is she bottomless, she is laying spread eagle in such a way that I get a full wide open crotched shot. Not thinking, I quickly retreated downstairs to avoid embarrassing her and to clean up her vomit in the downstairs bathroom. I didn't close the door, not wanting to wake her and have her discover me staring right at her crotch. A short time later, my 17-year-old comes downstairs from his room. He lets us know that he got the same view I did. If I ever mention that story again, I think our 10-year-plus friendship will be over. With a couple of buddies, let's call them John and Marcus. After a couple of hours, Marcus was fairly drunk and talking up a rather unattractive young lady. A few minutes later they headed upstairs together. About 5 minutes passed and John, who was also rather intoxicated, stood up and went after them. From where I was sitting I could see up the stairs, and I watch as John proceeds to kick open the locked bedroom door and scream, "You'll thank me for this tomorrow." A moment later he comes out with Marcus over his shoulder and stormed out of the front door. I drove them both home. Marcus thanked John the next day. A few months ago my friend was at a party where he got shit-faced and declared to the entire room, directed at this girl who he wasn't even talking to beforehand, "You gotta pick, it's either me or this guy," and pointed a thumb at himself. After that he yelled that these were his people and proceeded to shove his face in said girl's chest and motorboated to his heart's content. He also had body slammed his friend's brother into a furnace, splitting his head open. He had actually texted this friend the morning after, asking him if he had behaved. His friend, knowing what happened to his brother, said, "Yeah, you were really good last night," completely seriously. He had thought he'd done well that night. A friend of ours decided to get really hammered and started his 21st off with a Long Island iced tea. 3 or 4 hours later we are sitting in Jimmy John's drunker than a sea captain after a long voyage and realize, holy shit, we lost him. We found our friend 2 blocks away waving at cars and promptly walked him to a nearby restaurant for some water and rest. He ends up throwing up on himself as we wait for our ride and we carry him to the car. As we near his apartment to end the night he passes out and shits his pants. He was in bad shape. He still made the effort to tell us to fuck off and go away as we carried his limp body up the stairs to his apartment. As we were carrying him, a car went by and stopped. Just imagine seeing 3 dudes stumbling up some stairs with what looks like a dead body at 3 AM. You're going to stop. Luckily nobody got out, and we proceeded to place drunk friend in the tub and clean him off as best we could. I monitored his well-being for the next 4 hours to make sure we didn't need a doctor. He remembers none of this. Stumbling around late night in the city with 4 guy buddies after the bars closed, all of us either blacked out or on the verge. Random big-bellied non-threatening looking guy trots over to us and says, "Guys, stop. You can't be walking around the streets wasted like this. I'm an undercover officer," sort of scoping out each one of us. I know immediately this guy is full of shit, but wonder where the fuck he's going with this, and watch him zero in on the sloppiest drunk in our group and order him to put his hands on the wall. With sloppy drunk friend's hands against the wall, big bellied random guy starts feeling his body up and down and begins massaging my friend's balls. After a few seconds of this, I finally decide to yell at the guy, tell him to fuck off, because no, you're not a fucking cop, get lost. Random guy stops, mumbles a few things at me and walks away. TLDR, random guy pretends to be a cop, massages my drunken friend's balls. Profit. At a frat party during my freshman year of college, 2 friends and I went to the bathroom together drunkenly, as girls usually do. Anyway, as I'm leaning on the lockless door to keep it closed, one of my friends is peeing, while the other opens the medicine cabinet and starts digging around. Then she pulls out a razor and walks over to the bathtub, which is filled with ice, housing the extra keg, sits on the keg, and proceeds to shave her vagina, announcing that she is going to fuck the president of the frat. To anyone wondering, she did. And some poor, or lucky, if you look at it that way, boy had lady pubes in his razor. Also sorry to anyone doing a keg stand that night. TL, doctor witnessed a friend secretly shave her pubes with a frat boy's razor on the party keg in the bathroom. It was roughly 2 AM and my ex was drinking with a few friends and these Nerf guns somehow got involved. Long story short, my ex's friends end up running down the highway with my ex in pursuit. Now, the kicker is no one realized how bad it would look to have my Spanish ex in a big, puffy, black jacket with a toque chasing down a group of white boys, all in the while waving a Nerf gun in the air screaming, "I'm going to kill you." Things cool off, and they run into a 7-Eleven to get a drink, while my ex is outside catching his breath. Next thing he knows, a SWAT team of police cars show. They draw their guns and tell him to get on his hands and knees. Helicopter shows and spotlights on him. His friends come outside and see him, with a police officer shoving his face into the concrete. The next day, he was just finishing up telling me this story at work. We both worked at a grocery store together, and a customer had overheard and was so excited to meet him as he saw the whole ordeal the night before. I tend to love this story, yet he was never amused by it. In college, one of my friends was waiting for a bus back to campus from downtown, since his girlfriend was not feeling well after a night of drinking. Enter a mob of loud, obnoxious, and drunk black girls who clearly did not care about anyone else in the world. My friend politely asked them to keep it down, as some people were not having the best of nights. Mere seconds later, he would feel the fury of the Black Panthers as they rained blow after blow upon him with his girlfriend stood beside him in horror. After my friend took their beating, and it seemed like things were over, one of the girls turns around and throws a full slice of pizza at him that lands right on his chest, completely crushing his soul and instilling a fear of large black women that he will never be able to shake.